And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, talking business from Washington, D.C. today at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Digital Transformation Summit, and have a chance to talk with one of the speakers, and that is Michael M.J. Jackson, who is Vice President Global Head of Industries for DocuSign. And M.J., good to see you. What's it like to be in Washington today at this conference?
Oh, thank you, Ken. It's amazing. This event with the Chamber of Commerce has been very fruitful, both for myself, the team that we're here representing DocuSign, and many of our federal customers were present as well, two of whom were on the panel with me, representing the Veterans Administration as well as the Department of Interior. So couldn't have asked for a better turnout and a better conversation.
Very good. Now, you brought up a topic a little bit new to me. You talked about document equity as a key factor, especially in serving the public through federal agencies. Tell us a little bit about the concept of document equity.
Yeah, happy to. So when you think about it in terms of government, 75 to 80% of all workflows initiate in some way through a form. And so when you think about equity to that document, we're talking about equity in access to the document. Once we digitize all this content and all the workflows that go along with it, it's really important for the individuals who are accessing the document to do it in an equitable way, because not everybody has a plethora of digital tools or technologies. Oftentimes, individuals are using 5 inches of glass, their smartphone, to apply for benefits, to look for work, to enroll in programs. And so it's important that when solutions are developed, it's done from a mindset of mobile first. Now, the other side of that argument also, when you think about equitable access to documents, government agencies often have already invested in technologies, platforms, whether it's Salesforce or ServiceNow, Microsoft, Google, or AWS. And so it's also important that those agencies, those entities, are able to leverage the investments that they've already made, and those platforms equally should have access to any newly created repositories or workflows. And so representing DocuSign, it's always a pleasure for me to talk about how there's upwards of 400 connectors, integrations, and APIs to enable equity, both in access from terms of other platforms, as well as individuals, regardless of the size of their screens, the speed of their connection. We want to create a single source of truth and ensure that everyone can equally access, contribute, and thrive in what we call the new anywhere economy.
Absolutely. And you talked about I think it was 10,000 government forms, and you outlined a basic process for digitizing forms, to digitizing an agency. What are some of the steps along the process in digitizing?
No, great question. So I spoke on the panel about how every agency, every customer is different, and we pride ourselves in being able to meet them where they are in their digital transformation journey. Now, with that said, however, there are often 3 discrete milestones that our customers find that they often celebrate and they aspire to. The first one is digitization, and that is taking what was formerly paper and just making it digital so that you can more effectively secure it, share it, and control access to it, whether it's storage and archiving or downstream processes related to what happens after a signature is acquired, for example. The second step is what I call open government or collaborative, creating a single source of truth with role-based access. We talked in there on the panel about zero trust and how at the federal level, agencies now assume that every external stakeholder has potential malicious intent. And so you verify identity and you continuously validate it. Once you incorporate those secure processes, however, though, you can then control that single source of truth and make sure that collaboration and all of the internal workings between stakeholders, between disparate stakeholders, takes place on the same set of data. And then finally, there's what we call smart government, and that's leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning, and basic analytics so that you can do a number of things. You can make accurate predictions about what's going to happen next based on what's previously happened in the past, but also as it relates to forms and contracts, you can accurately measure the risk that may be inherent in some of these contracts, or effectively measure obligations of all the stakeholders who have agreed to a certain set of terms and conditions that may dynamically change in the future.
Okay, and MJ, one of the topics, one of the panels was that users of digital forms are at different levels of sophistication and familiarity with digital access. How do you work so that you can accommodate a broad spectrum of people with digital solutions?
Well, that's a great question. We did talk a little bit about the experiences for employers, constituents, for agencies. And the key really is when I define an experience, you break it into what I call the three tranches or the three buckets. It's like a three-legged stool. The first is engagement. And so oftentimes you have constituents or employees or other users who want or need access to the data, to the form, to the document to be signed. And they do that through a number of channels. And so the goal is to start with the most common denominator. And in today's society, that's often the smartphone. We talked about, 5 inches of glass. And so starting with a mobile first approach is one way to ensure that there's a low bar to clear as it relates to enablement or training to enable individuals to proficiently leverage the tools that you create. Secondly is efficiency, right? And that's the value proposition behind the scenes for the agency. What happens after the form has been signed or the contract has been amended? And that speaks to ways that we can reduce or minimize or eliminate manual data entry, automate processes, streamline workflows, and then finally is effectiveness. And specifically, that is measuring the effectiveness of the first two so that individuals and organizations understand almost in real time whether or not they're on track to create the value and realize the tangible benefits that was their intent as the transformation began.
Very good. And MJ, would you tell us a little bit about DocuSign, some of the broad services that you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So DocuSign, we've been around now for 20 years exactly. We've worked with a number of customers. In fact, just last year we celebrated our 1 millionth customer, 1 billion users. We're in over 180 countries, operating in 45 languages. And so specifically here today, we talked about how at the government levels, federal, state, and local, we are proud to work closely with 15 of the 15 executive level cabinet agencies and departments, as well as governments at the state and local level across all 50 states. And so essentially what we do is we help our customers address and overcome some of the most industry-specific challenges across regulated industries.
Very good. Great description. And tell us a little bit about, you've got an interesting career path, and tell us a little bit about it and your responsibility now at DocuSign.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm having a great time here at DocuSign. I've been with DocuSign now for about 2 years. Prior, I was with Amazon Web Services in a similar role, building and leading industry-specific businesses and practices. And so, in a nutshell, that's what we do, or that's what my team and I do, is we create strategies that deliver value for our customers, address real-world challenges with data, and deliver outcomes in a measurable way. And so, for the past 15 years, I've been doing that for global technology companies.
Well, MJ Jackson, Michael MJ Jackson, Vice President, Global Head of Industries at DocuSign. Great to meet you here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Digital Transformation Summit in Washington. A pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Pleasure to talk with you.
Nice to meet you. It's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business in Washington, D.C.